Hello everyone, here we are. We're going to get going with Job 8, and I believe, excuse me for bumping the camera, I believe his friend Bildad, the Shuhite, is going to be speaking with him, and then we'll hear his answer. Okay, here we go. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied. Okay, now if we remember when we left off, Job was saying, he was so down and so broken. He said, I'm gonna hide and you'll never find me. So basically he was saying, I'm gonna die somewhere and God, you'll never find me. Okay, which we know is impossible, but you can imagine how broken you would have to be to utter something like that. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, how long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. Does God pervert justice? I'm emphasizing that because he said, why are you treating my words like they're wind? That's what Job said. Excuse me. Your words are a blustering wind. Does God pervert justice? Does the Almighty pervert what is right? When your children sinned against him, he gave them over to the penalty of their sin. But if you will seek God earnestly and plead with the Almighty, if you're pure and upright, even now he'll rouse himself on your behalf and restore you to your prosperous state. Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous your beginnings will seem humble. You're so prosperous will your future be. Wow, because he was very, very wealthy and had lots of kids and all kinds of stuff. So this is an interesting statement that Bildad is making. Ask the former generation and find out what their ancestors learned, for we're born only yesterday and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not instruct you and tell you? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Can papyrus grow tall where there's no marsh? Can reeds thrive without water? While still growing and uncut, they wither more quickly than grass. Such is the destiny of all who forget God. So perishes the hope of the godless. What they trust in is fragile. What they rely on is a spider's web. They lean on the web, but it gives way. They cling to it, but it doesn't hold. They're like a well-watered plant in the sunshine, spreading its shoots over the garden. It entwines its roots around a pile of rocks and looks for a place among the stones. But when it's torn from its spot, that place disowns it and says, I never saw you. Surely its life withers away, and from the soil other plants grow. Surely God doesn't reject one who's blameless or strengthen the hands of evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Your enemies will be clothed in shame, and the tents of the wicked will be no more. Now that's a very famous scripture. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. God has a habit of doing that. When you think it's all over, boy, he has a way of filling your mouth with laughter and joy, and your heart with joy. Then Job replied, indeed, I know that this is true, but how can mere mortals prove their innocence before God? Though they wished to dispute with him, they could not answer him 1 time out of 1,000. His wisdom is profound, his power is vast. Who's resisted him and come out unscathed? He moves mountains without their knowing it and overturns them in his anger. He shakes the earth from its place and makes its pillars tremble. He speaks to the sun and it doesn't shine. He seals off the light of the stars. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He's the maker of the Bear and Orion. Okay, so he's talking about the constellations. We know Orion's belt. We've all seen that constellation. We see it every night almost. And the Bear would be, it's called Ursa. And I'm not sure which one that is. He is the maker of the Bear and Orion. It shows you, though, how long ago we've known about these things, okay? The Pleiades and the constellations of the south. We've known about the stars and studied the stars for eons and eons, people. Not that we know more than God about them, of course we don't, but just to let you see that the more things change, the more they stay the same. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that can't be counted. When he passes me, I can't see him. When he goes by, I can't perceive him. If he snatches away, who can stop him? Who can say to him, "What are you doing?" God doesn't restrain his anger. Even the cohorts of Rahab cowered at his feet. I'm trying to think. Rahab was the prostitute that hid the spies that Moses sent out to spy out the land of Canaan. And she and her family were saved when they came in to take the city. So I'm thinking, even Rahab, let's see, even the cohorts of Rahab cowered at his feet. Now, Rahab was a Canaanite woman living in Canaan who helped Moses' spies, which were Caleb and I don't remember the other, Joshua maybe. How then can I dispute with him? How can I find words to argue with him? Though I were innocent, I couldn't answer him. I could only plead with my judge for mercy. Even if I summoned him and he responded, I don't believe he'd give me a hearing. We feel that way sometimes when we're suffering, like God isn't hearing, he's not even going to pay attention, this is nothing for him. Even if I summoned him and he responded, I don't believe he'd give me a hearing. He'd crush me with a storm and multiply my wounds for no reason. Oop, getting a little dangerous talk there, Job. He would not let me, but see, this is to show you how real it is to struggle with God. We do it, okay? We walk out this whole Bible as Christians. He would not let me catch my breath, but would overwhelm me with misery. If it's a matter of strength, he's mighty. And if it's a matter of justice, who can challenge him? Even if I were innocent, my mouth would condemn me. If I were blameless, it would pronounce me guilty. Although I am blameless, I have no concern for myself. I despise my own life. It's all the same. That's why I say he destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When a scourge brings sudden death, he mocks the despair of the innocent. He's not mocking the despair of the innocent, but this is what it feels like when you're suffering. When a land falls into the hands of the wicked, he blindfolds its judges. If it's not he, then who is it? My days are swifter than a runner. They fly away without a glimpse of joy. They skim past like boats of papyrus, like eagles swooping down on their prey. If I say I'll forget my complaint, I'll change my expression and smile, I still dread all my sufferings, for I know you will not hold me innocent, since I'm already found guilty. So he's really not talking to Bildad and answering Bildad. He's now kind of shaking his fists at God in exasperation and pure pain. Since I'm already found guilty, why should I struggle in vain? Even if I washed myself with soap and my hands with cleansing powder, you'd plunge me into a slime pit so that even my clothes would detest me. He's not a mere mortal like me that I might answer him, that we might confront each other in court. If only there were someone to mediate between us. Wow. Because we have Jesus. He didn't have Jesus. We have a mediator between God and man, and it's Jesus Christ. He doesn't have Jesus. So he's saying here, if only there was someone to mediate between us, someone to bring us together. Oh my goodness. Someone to remove God's rod from me so that his terror would frighten me no more. Then I would speak up without fear of him, but as it now stands with me, I cannot. I loathe my very life. Therefore, I'll give free rein to my complaint and speak out in the bitterness of my soul. He's saying it doesn't matter anymore. I'm just going to spit it all out. I say to God, don't declare me guilty, but tell me what charges you have against me. Does it please you to oppress me, to spurn the work of your hands while you smile on the plans of the wicked? How often do we feel that way? We see the wicked prospering and we feel like we're suffering all day long. Ooh, do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a mortal sees? Are your days like those of a mortal, or are your years like those of a strong man? that you must search out my faults and probe after my sin, though you know I'm not guilty, and that no one can rescue me from your hand. So it's almost like a woman in labor. When I was giving birth to my daughter, it's that feeling that no matter, you can't unzip your body and walk away and go sit on the couch while the body does the work. You're in it. So that's what's happening to him. He's laboring in the Lord, and he's realizing that the Lord's got him, and he's not going to be able to get out of the pain and the suffering he's going through. He's going to bring something to bear, certainly. He's going to birth something. But that's exactly the feeling when you know you're going into labor, and when it starts and it's painful. And I know you men don't get this, but you women do. When it starts, you know you're going through it. There's no getting out of it. No matter how painful it gets, you're going to be there. So he's saying here, though you know I'm not guilty and that no one can rescue me from your hand. In other words, you've got me, you're doing this to me, and I can't get out. Your hands shaped me and made me. Will you now turn and destroy me? Remember that you molded me like clay. Will you now turn me to dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? Boy, I'm starting to feel a lot better about that night that I told you guys about, where I was shaking my fists at the Lord. I'm starting to feel a little better about that. And I'm gonna give like a coda on that in a minute at the end of this. Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese, clothe me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews? You gave me life and showed me kindness, and in your providence watched over my spirit. But this is what you concealed in your heart, and I know that this was in your mind. If I sinned, you'd be watching me and would not let my offense go unpunished. If I'm guilty, woe to me. Even if I'm innocent, I can't lift my head, for I'm full of shame and drowned in my affliction. My God, I understand that. If I hold my head high, you stalk me like a lion and again display your awesome power against me. You bring new witnesses against me and increase your anger towards me. Your forces come against me wave upon wave. Why then did you bring me out of the womb? I wish I died before any eye saw me. If only I'd never come into being or had been carried straight from the womb to the grave. Are not my few days almost over? Turn away from me so I can have a moment's joy before I go to the place of no return, to the land of gloom and utter darkness, to the land of deepest night, of utter darkness and disorder, where even the light is like darkness. Wow, it sounds like he's describing hell. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to bring up here. Number one, being in court with my daughter. For those of you who don't know, and I know most of you do know, I raised my granddaughter. So, 10 years later, my daughter pops up when my granddaughter is 13 or so. So maybe it was even later than 10 years. She pops up 13 years later and she says, I'm taking you. She didn't even tell me. She just kissed me on the cheek and hung a subpoena on the door, which I found later. And 3.5 years of court, family court, which, I felt like I was being roasted on a spit. I couldn't get out of it. I'm telling you, if I ever sinned raising my daughter, it was brought up. And it was thrown on the floor, dissected, exploited, and I was condemned. I literally stood condemned. It was unbelievable. Then, of course, there were all of the lies and the things that were circumstantial and not something that I had chosen, that were thrown on the floor, exploited, lied about, and I stood there condemned. The whole thing was so shocking to me that I barely could speak. I did my best, but the lies were so powerful. The crucifixion was so painful. It was a definite labor pain. It was definitely bringing something to birth, and I don't know what that is yet, okay? Now, about the night that I tell you where I blew up at God and said, get away from me. I'm tired of all this. I can't take it anymore. Just to say this to anybody who may not know, the grace of God that night, when I finally went to sleep about 4 a.m, I had a dream that I was in a room with people who were in groups praying, and there was a line of people waiting to go get prayed over by 2 or 3 huge angels. And when it was my turn, the angel said, "What is your name?" And I said, "Autumn." And they said again, "What is your name?" And I said, "Autumn." And they said, "What is your name?" And so I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Autumn Isles." You know, I gave them my last name. I didn't know what they wanted. And they leaned back their heads and clapped their hands and started to laugh. And they said, "You go sit over there. We're going to pray for you an extra half hour," or what have you. But when I woke up from that dream vision, I realized that the Lord in his grace, even though I had freaked out on him, exactly the way Job is, to be honest with you, the Lord showed me, did I tell you that they said, "You are a leader, you go sit over at that table, we're going to pray for you a half an hour longer"? I think the first time I told you, they told me I was a leader, and now the second time I'm telling you, because I realized I'd forgotten, they said, "We're going to pray for you an extra half hour." We could go into a big digression of what a half an hour represents, etc., per the Bible, because it does represent something. I just don't know what that is right off the top. I'd have to study it. But the point of the story is that in my anger and freak out, God came to me with utter grace and gave me a future and a hope, told me something about my future to give me hope to keep going, okay? So I just want to reiterate that story just so that you understand the grace of God, even when we fall down like this, like the way Job is falling down. Maybe reading it in plainer English is showing me that that was the kind of night that I had. And, you know, I've honestly had the last 4 years like this, except that I have more understanding now and I'm more humble. And I don't think I've attacked God through, matter of fact, I'm sure I haven't through the whole 4 years, but I have done a lot of crying because I did lose custody of my granddaughter and I was so terrified. My daughter's still using drugs and alcohol. My granddaughter's 20, she's gonna be 20 this year, so she's grown, but you know, to this day, most of us could never understand how I lost custody. You know, whether it was, we just don't know. We don't understand it because she had a beautiful home and my daughter kept failing drug tests. And so I don't know if something was going on with my daughter and the judge. I mean, I'm not trying to slander her, but I wouldn't put it past her. So we just don't understand how I lost custody. But the Lord allowed it for a reason, okay? And those reasons have yet to be revealed, and I'm not living my life, I'm starting to come out of the pain of it in the sense that it's always hanging over me. It's not. I don't think about it a lot anymore. But I still have moments where I burst into tears. I mean, it still hurts because my daughter immediately took my granddaughter that I raised and estranged her from me. I don't know what she did, but now I'm estranged from my granddaughter too. So it's very painful. These are the trials. You know, it's like when I see people enjoying their grandchildren, I usually don't think this, but once in a while I'll say, you know, I should be enjoying grandchildren and I'm not. Why? I mean, you know, aren't I yours, God? You know, and of course I know that I am, but it's like, God, you know, I have favor in other areas. What's happened here? But it's a mystery, and it's something that God hasn't chosen to reveal. And it's hard to not feel condemned at times and just go, well, you know, I mean, if I was anything, I was a good mom. I mean, I even had a pastor send a woman to my door, and she said, "Pastor Zach sent me here to talk to you because I'm having trouble with my son." And he said, "You're a wonderful mother." So if I was anything for 35 years, because I raised these two consecutively, my daughter and then her daughter, you know, I was a good mom. So it's a mystery. It's a real challenge. It's something that I have to, you know, fight against getting down in the dumps as far as self-esteem. It's hard, okay? So pray for me as I pray for you. I love you guys. We'll pick it up again tomorrow with Job chapter 11, and we'll see if his friends are going to answer him again. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.